Well, first off, my name is Tim Decker. I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran, having served from 1968 to 1972, and the Air Force trained me to be a spy, and that involved learning North Vietnamese and flying 220 plus missions over Indochina. So now we'll begin with this story. It was my first day in Saigon, and I had just come from Okinawa thinking I was going to fly out of there, and they said, "Oh no, we have this special program, you're going to Vietnam." I said, "Okay." So I landed and I realized there's some things I don't have. So I went to the BX, which is like a giant Walmart or Target for the military. And I gathered up the necessities that I was looking for. And I get in the checkout line, and I look, and up ahead of me is this beautiful Vietnamese young lady at the checkout. And there's the guy she's checking out. It's what we call a lifer, a career man. He's probably an old guy then. I was 21. He was in his 50s at least, and he's trying to make time with this young girl. And he's using a few words of Vietnamese and trying to charm her. And I'm sitting back there having studied Vietnamese for almost 2 years, saying, "Oh man, this guy, he's just making a fool out of himself." So I get up there and I said, I'll show her what a linguist is, you know. And so I look at her and I said, "Chào cô, cô có mình nói không?" And which in Vietnamese is hello for a young lady. How are you? And immediately she looks at me and I start talking some more and her eyes open, her mouth is agape. And now I'm just pumped. I thought, oh boy, I'm impressing the hell out of her. So I'm just rattling on. I'm saying every Vietnamese word I know, and I'm going to it. And finally, after a while, she looks at me and responds in English, and she says, "Oh, you speak very beautiful. What language you speak?" So, being deflated, you know, I thought, okay, I'll just chalk this up to the fact that she speaks South Vietnamese, the Saigon dialect, and I learned the Hanoi dialect. So I said, okay, a little deflated, but I can understand it. So now, we go a couple weeks later. Some of us from our mission, we just landed, and we said, oh, we didn't want any more military food. So there was a little restaurant out at the gate to Tan Son Nhut Air Base called the Casa Grande. And they had great Mexican food. And so we went there, and we all, for some reason, ordered tortilla soup. And everybody had a big soup spoon except me. So I get this spoon, and I hold it up. The waitress comes by, and I hold it up, and I said, and I couldn't think of the name for soup spoon. So I just held it up, and I said, "What is this?" in Vietnamese. I said, "Kaini la kai." And she looked at me, and she's this befuddled look on her face, and said, like, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "Kaini la kai." And she looks at me, and again, English is the response, and she says, "Spoon." Well, now, you know, I thought, okay, another thing, maybe she just doesn't understand me. It'll get by. I'll get through this. So things worked out. I finished my 3 tours in Vietnam. Now, fast forward to 1983. My wife and I are in Seymour, Indiana, at St. Ambrose Catholic Church on Pentecost Sunday. The priest has just given his sermon, and he's telling all about how the Holy Spirit descended on the apostles, and they were able to go out and minister to all peoples in all their languages. And in the Catholic Church, they also have a little parade when it's time for communion, where you walk up to the front of the church to receive the sacraments. So this particular day, I see this lady walking up there, and she's obviously Vietnamese because she has on the traditional áo dài, which consists of the silk pants and a long tunic. Plus, she's wearing something that only on special occasions do women wear, which is the kai mu'u, which is a high tilted hat, and she's just dressed to the nines. She gets communion, she walks right by us, so I turn around to see where she's sitting, and she's about 3 rows behind us. So at the end of church, we're getting, as everybody's leaving church, I said, I'm going back and I'm going to speak to her in Vietnamese. So I rush back, I get down there, she's just exiting the pew, and I look at her and I said, Chào ba con mình giỏi không? And she looks at me and she says, oh, tôi mình giỏi. She says, and so I knew she understood me. And I told her in Vietnamese, I said, hôm nay giỏi đẹp quá, what a beautiful day it was, how nice she looked, and I'm going, and the more I'm talking, she's backing up. And I'm going forward, trying to get closer to her. She keeps backing up and backing up. And now she's almost running out of church. And I'm continuing to speak to her, and finally Barb comes up, my wife comes up from behind, and she grabs me and she said, I think you scared the heck out of her. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I think she thinks the Holy Spirit just zapped you. Thank you.